out for the positions of the sabbatical officers and the part-time officers at the Students' Union.
Okay, so first up we've got activities officers, so all the candidates for activities officers, do you want to take to the top?
It's happy now that we've exactly what it was. It's just that it's really
We've got Alistair here. Just while one of the candidates, we've got some, just remember that we've got some free food just over there in the corner, and we've got drink tokens for you to get coffee and yoghurts. Alistair, you're up.
Have a nice night. See you later, mate.
Let's go, Gilna. Okay, so first up, we're going to hear from each of the candidates and have 30 seconds to tell you who they are and why you should vote for them. So you'll get put off in the bell when your 30 seconds is up.
First up from Paris.
Okay, look, when you guys ask questions today, what do you keep in mind? Ultimately, manifest points are not hugely important. Coming to the role, you sit in meetings, you get emails, you know what actually is important things you need to deal with. None of us here have experienced anything close to what Sophie, our utility officer, has to deal with. Myself, I sit in meetings with Sophie, and I do pre-causes and amazing work kind of staff do behind stage. So, with that in mind, I think what we need to realise is that the most important thing to vote on is experience and skill set. For that reason,
Next up, Jordan Carroll.
Hi guys, my name's Jordan. I'm also a corporate activities officer. Me personally, the whole reason I'm doing this is out of passion. Like I genuinely love societies. I had one rough first year and second year, and what turned that around for me was societies. And I want to be the candidate that can help you guys get that too. Because the most upsetting thing is at university, it's so easy to spend 3 years and not get involved in something that can really like give you so many great opportunities and experiences. I'm social stuck for 20 minutes, which has been incredible, and honestly, just come say hi if you see the wrong campus.
Okay, thanks for that, Jordan. Next up is Alistair Gear.
Hi, I'm Ali, nice to meet you all, and thank you all so much for coming. Genuinely, societies are a great part of university life. If you're not taking part of them, I strongly encourage that you do. And for next year, I really want to make sure that societies have the best tools at hand to help them run these things, and to get some recognition for people that do that, support them as much as they can. I'm very passionate about it, and I'd love to help them out. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Alistair. Next up is Eleanor Kilmer.
Hi, I'm Eleanor. I'm obviously one of the activities officer. We've done the best we can over the final few days, but if you want someone who will improve society collaboration, push for go volunteer, and make sure your future matters, then vote for me. Easy, approachable, and I just want to make life easy. Enjoy this week. Really nice to see you all. Yeah, vote for me. Thanks.
Our final candidate, activities officer, Megan Keats.
Hi guys, I'm Megan. I'm the activities student, and I want to be your next activities officer. I want to be your activities officer, better training, societies and clubs. I want more employment to develop you as a person. I want more flexible volunteering programs for you as students at the timetables. If you want a cheap and cheerful NUSU, please vote for Keats. Thank you.
Okay, so now we've got some questions, and then we'll open it up to questions on the floor. So we'll try and make it we'll start but we'll start with so first question, Sophie's done put on loads of extra training this year, as I'm sure you guys all know. How would you further improve or add something new to the training that society has received?
So it has got a good set of training this year, and I do feel like that has been a great improvement, but I think this one's, I really want to take it a bit further. I want the mid-year training, really because we've got really highly suggested, so societies can follow up. Come to me and a little bit more of an open space, more of a homogeneity. Oh, sorry. Yeah, and so I really want some more sales and the musician, where the musicians don't do more welfare. And I also want to do a little bit more on event management, organisation.
Hiya, in terms of training, I'd like to get people from specific charities involved. So within the training, get someone from Mind in, or someone from like a sexual harassment charity or something like that. So you can be like clued up from the experts in what they can do. We've had a great amount of training, but I think sometimes we need the expertise in order to really get the most out of the training. I think the midterm training is a really good idea, but I think it needs to come from the people that really know.
Hi, so one of my main manifesto points is about opening up welfare to not only the welfare officer, which is compulsory, but also to all committee members. I'm welfare officer for the squash club, so for me, whilst I thought this was great, I didn't see any reason why this could be opened up to everyone on the committee. At the same time, it's very valuable to have awareness and skill. On top of that, one of the main issues that I heard talking to just general people in societies is that they wish they had a bit more training. And although they do get training, I think also just being able to talk to the people who are on committees, talk to them, what they do, how they approach issues.
We're more like united student body and everyone can engage in it. Moreover, I feel like about making like social sector committees aware that when they're on socials, they're representing not only the university, they're representing us. So if they do anything wrong or anything, just make them aware of what our standards are at university, because I think sometimes those lines get blurred and people get too eager.
No, yeah, I mean, as someone who's been involved in society for the last 5 years, I attest to these an extraordinary job in sort of increasing the scope of training this year, but there's always things to build upon, and I absolutely want to sort of carry the momentum forward. Welfare training, absolutely, as a PT and as a person who's been involved in liberation societies, that's something I want to increase. Like Alistair said, I think it's worth every member of the committee having some degree of welfare training, because every member has some degree of pastoral care. I think what's worth doing is actually during the year holding polls to see what officers are actually struggling with. There's not me thinking from my perspective what people are struggling with, so I'll ask, and then that's the training I'll hold. That's probably the best way to go about it.
Okay, thanks for the answers, candidates. So one of the key things that everyone sort of associates the activities officer with is obviously societies, but the activities officer also supports volunteer and employability at the Students' Union. So our next question is there anything you want to do to get societies more involved in volunteering?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, different societies cover different skill sets, which obviously relate to particular branches of careers and support training sectors as a whole. So, for example, if we were getting, we do the creative events every year, and that's a fantastic event. Absolutely get film, soft photography society and various other creative societies involved with that, because they have the best base. Similarly, other sectors getting relative societies involved with that, so we are targeting types of events. Same with the third sector as well.
Obviously, on my manifesto, one of my main points is trying to get most societal sponsorships. What I think that'll also encompass is when we're getting more sponsorships and building better ties with the city, there'll be more opportunities for work experience, so people can get real world actual skill sets and build upon that. More about volunteering, by building closer bonds and
Sorry, could everyone just maybe keep it down just a little bit, just so we can all hear what the candidates have to say?
So definitely, when you run a society, you have access to so many different members, and the potential for you to do volunteering work is so profound. I definitely think that it's great that some societies do this. We also give more recognition to those that really do, and make it clear that we encourage this. So that's definitely something worthwhile. The reach that we have is great as societies, to be able to just try ways to implement more volunteering around the university, using that reach, or just in small subtle ways, just incorporating more charity.
So in terms of volunteering, I want to work with the Go Volunteer project leaders and try and set up workshops between the societies and those leaders so we can collaborate more easily on what the societies want to offer. I think it's also important to focus on specific societies. So at the moment there's one called IT on the Go, and things like that where you can really make a difference in a very specific way for volunteering. And then for employability, I work with the alumni team at the moment. I'm an alumni ambassador, and I think I can work really well with them with NCL Spark and get society execs.
Hi, thanks. Two of my three main manifesto points figure on employability and volunteering. For employability, I want to develop sector-specific volunteering with course-related societies and theme-related societies. I also want to componentise it into a plus award, so figures on those things that employers really want to hear from you, and you can say, yes, I have done this, so yes, I have done leadership, yes, I have done communication, working in teams. Those are the two main ones that I'm going to work through, developing your employability throughout the year.
Okay, thanks, candidates. We're now going to open up the floor to any questions that anyone might have. So we've got a couple of roving mics on these ones. So if you've got any questions, do you want to put your hand up?
No questions, the activities? Yeah, over there.
This is to Jordan. I read your manifesto, and one of the things I think was really great was one free society membership for anyone who picks up a credit through, and buy one, get one half price for society membership. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
How are you going to pay for that? Do the societies pay, or where does the money come from for that?
So the idea of it initially, like, it got brought up in the debate. I think the start of it would be something to do with, in regards to, it's not compulsory for societies to actually do that. So if a society wants bigger memberships and like more turnout and stuff, they can offer that as an optional sort of thing. Moreover, like on the rest of my manifesto, it's going on about getting like societal sponsorships, and I feel like if you can pull on that enough and create like closer ties with the city, more money comes from that.
So it's an optional, so societies can choose whether they want to offer it?
Yeah, so it wouldn't, because in the sense of, in regards to funding and stuff, it wouldn't be fair to turn around and say like every single society has to do it. It would just be like down to subjective committees as to whether they want to do it.
Any more questions from the floor of the activities officer candidates? No? Okay, I'll thanks candidates. Okay, you're free to go. Good luck.
So I'd let you know just in case.
Okay, so now we're going to hear from our AU candidates. So if they'd all just like to do a 30-second introduction. First up, we'll have Stylianos.
Hi, thank you everyone for coming. Basically, the reason I think I'm qualified for this job is because I'm doing second stage economics, treasurer of the archery club, so I got the financial background. Also, I'm cost rep as well as part of the AU exec committee, which gives me a knowledge of the welfare and what the clubs need. And also, I have been part of the European Youth Panel for the past 5 years, and I've been in the army for 2 years as sergeant, which gives me all the leadership management qualities. Thank you.
Next up is Laura.
Hi, I'm Laura. I'm currently a third-year geography student and secretary of my club. My main policies are to increase spectator attendance at home games, hold an annual charity event for Mine for all sport clubs, and to create a post-match venue for all Newcastle teams. I'm currently on the AU exec with these guys, and I'm also on the student council and the university finance committee.
And final candidate, Joe.
Hi, I'm Joe. I'm fourth year Mech Eng. I've been president and treasurer of the ice hockey club for the last 3 years, and my main 3 manifesto points are: I want to introduce training for club members, so you get a coaching qualification and help improve the training of your clubs. I want to run more welfare training for welfare officers, and I want to challenge sports centre costs and push for a monthly payment.
Okay. Okay, so our question to you is part of the role of my job, an AU officer, is engaging students who don't already participate in sport. So how do you think you can go about that?
So I'd like to introduce casual sport sessions throughout the week. So that's aimed at getting people who aren't involved in sport. Maybe through sports that you don't need much equipment to play, like rounders or circuits in the park or anything just to get people active. And also by reducing costs, I'm going to drive up the accessibility of sport at uni.
So one of the big things at Newcastle is when you come to sport is the big freshers fair you have at Sports Hall, and I think a good idea would be to have a separate one for intramural clubs and teams, so they know that accessibility and what's open to them, because normally it's just people going around campus trying to recruit people. If you had a fair you could go to knowing specifically it's not for performance sport, but it's for like participation sport, I think that would be quite a good way of doing it.
Okay, affordability, basically the prices are one of the main issues that prevent people from joining. Also, I want to promote different campaigns such as this girl can to get more people active, as well as I'm planning to work closely with society. So we have like society club social, where society members can try out sports, and basically promote different tester sessions throughout the year. Thank you.
Okay, so we're a bit tight for time, so we're just going to open questions straight up to the floor now. Any questions for the AU officer candidates? I'll go around the mic, yeah. I'm coming. Nearly there.
So Joe, I've read in your manifesto that you want the monthly payments from students. How are you going to make sure that all the sports students keep in the same team, so don't just drop out and you get like half the second team just drop out and then have to move people up and then the standard of the club go down?
So the monthly payment's actually for your sports centre membership rather than for the clubs. So it'd just be like any other monthly payment system where rather than paying a big block sum at the start, it just comes out in regular instalments that you know are preset monthly. So it's not like a pay as you go, it's like you pay just in sections, so it's a bit more affordable at the start.
Okay, any more questions from the floor for the AU officers? No?
Hi, so you obviously work very closely with the activities officer, you sit right next door to one another. So where do you see societies and clubs coming and harmonising together, and how can you facilitate that?
Hi, thank you for the question. Basically, as I mentioned before, I'm planning to do a club social activity where we'll be reaching out to societies and make them do sports, basically. And it's going to take a lot of communication between societies and clubs, but it is possible. So basically, it's going to be a series of test sessions throughout the year.
I'd probably say working with the presidents of all the sport clubs and alongside the presidents of
Listen to
societies.
candidates, please, sorry.
And getting them to work together. I don't think personally you can just drive it by yourself. You're going to have to go through the heads of all the clubs, of both of them, and show them what's open to both sports clubs and the activities, and they can work together.
Yeah, I agree with Lara on that. I think it's about getting the presidents together and really encouraging people to interact with each other, because in the end it's only going to enrich your university experience by doing both.
We've got any other questions for the AU officer candidates?
Yeah, I'm coming.
So Laura, you mentioned you wanted to do a Mind fundraiser. Have you done anything this year? Would you care to elaborate on what you've done so far?
So yeah, this year I've held 2 really big charity events. We've raised over £800 for charity. We've literally just done that as our club, and we had Red Bull come and help sponsor the event. Literally just charging £1 entry, and it's gone really successfully. So I'll probably try and implement that for next year through clubs and have something like a charity week.
We have one more over here. No?
Okay, we've got one more question over here. This will be the last one.
I just want to follow that up with charity events. For all 3 candidates, what do you think about charity events for all clubs, and how would you encourage clubs to do that?
So we, as a club, have run a charity event this year. We did a full 5k this Saturday, ran the park running full ice hockey kit, and it's something that I'd really look to push to clubs. I think charity work's an incredible thing to do, and we're really lucky to be here at uni, so it's definitely something that clubs should get involved with.
I think we'll finish up there. So thank you very much, candidates. Give them a round of applause, please.
Okay, so next up, we have the Chair of Council candidate. Oh, no, sorry. No, I'm right. Yeah, Chair of Council, please, make your way out.
The man, the myth, the legend.
Okay, so for this role, we've got one candidate, and that's Stephen Dawes. Stephen, if you'd like to make your 30-second pitch on why you should be the next Chair of Student Union Council.
Hello, thank you very much for coming today. I'd like to be the chair of Student Council because I think I could be an impartial and fair chair this year. I know a lot of people on the Student Council currently, and I'm quite familiar with how the council runs. One thing I really want to do as chair is work to increase student engagement with our Student Council. As many people that are involved know, we have a little bit of a problem with that. And a lot of people have been working for a while, and I'd like to join them and take it in some new directions. One thing I'd especially like to do is try and reach out to the executive committees on societies, because I think we do societies quite well here at NUSU. It's one of the things that I
Okay, that's time up.
Okay, so our question follows on pretty well from what you just said. Because we've often seen that council attendance goes up and down depending on some more contentious or exciting motions. So if you're going to work on what previous people have done to engage more students, how are you actually going to do that?
Okay, so first of all, I think, as I was saying, contacting society execs could be a way to get more engagement from the student body as a whole. As you know, about 60% of students are involved in the club or society. And so if you're getting into those emailing lists for societies, details about what can be coming up in council that might be affecting them, obviously that's often for the society exec committee, what would affect them, but it can come up in council as well. I think that's one way to engage people. And another way I think is perhaps at Freshers Fairs for societies, if student council could have a stall there where chair and anybody who would want to volunteer could help provide details about what goes on in student politics, what happens in council. So those Freshers Fairs are well attended, and I think it'd be a good way to get freshers involved.
Okay, thanks, Stephen. So we'll open that up now to any questions from the floor from your Chair of Council candidate. Any questions? Okay, yeah, Adam.
As current Chair of Council, I was just wondering what you thought about the democratic deficit, which you mentioned at one of the councils when you spoke on the motion. I was wondering what you're going to do to work with the next education officer and how you're going to tackle that.
Well, obviously, as chair, you have to be relatively impartial. So, in terms of reforming council, I'd be extremely happy to work with people to bring a better, more functional, more democratic council to NUSU. But in my capacity as chair, if I was to be elected, I'd find it would be inappropriate to obviously bias towards a bill. But I could obviously help and assist somebody write a motion to council and offer ideas on that before council says, etc.
Okay, any other questions for the Chair of Council? No? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, just an announcement. Can anyone see an iPhone on a table with some headphones in? That's not theirs. Have a look around. Okay, whilst you look, we need the candidates for... Oh. So we need candidates for Disability Officer now up to the stage, please.
Okay, so that's Thomas Atkinson, Georgia Corbett and Kahina Grant. Can you make your way to the stage, please? Do we have our disability candidates?
I'm not sure if Tom would be because he's on a placement. Can I look at you? But he would have had
Okay, unfortunately our candidates couldn't make it here today, so next we'll have our candidate for Students with Faith and Belief Officer, Chris Winter.
Okay, so if you'd just like to give us 30 seconds on why you should be elected, please.
Hello everyone. Oh, thanks. My name is Christopher Winter, and this year I'm running for your faith and belief officer. My 3 main points are respect for all faiths on campus, regular meetings with students of faith, and religion to be promoted on campus. And that's it really.
Okay, so before we take questions to the floor, then one question based on your manifesto would be, how do you think there could be more respect for different faiths on campus?
Well, I think there's a lot of there's definitely a lot of apathy and a lot of lack of awareness towards people of faith on campus. I saw the Christian Union tent being walked past and people not even getting engaged. I think we need to definitely do something to get people engaged. I don't necessarily know the answers now, but when I start working with these people, we're definitely going to try and work on a method of getting people more engaged. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you. We'll now open it up to the floor for any questions.
Okay, I'll be walking around the mic. If anyone's got any questions for the Faith and Belief candidate?
So it's been brought to the attention of quite a few people from other marginalised groups that you've said possibly questionable comments. We have been told that maybe they were taken out of context, but I would actually like to hear from you. Would you be able to explain these possibly transphobic comments?
Yeah, no, that's fine. Everything that you really realistically need to know is in today's copy of the Courier. Can't really think of anything more to say on that.
Hear a little bit from
I think that to waste time going into a lot of detail on things that are explained in print would be a waste of time, especially because the statement in the paper took a long time to get right, and I think it properly reflects things. I'm not going to try and justify that now and then.
Okay, so pick up your copy of the Courier this week.
For once, yeah. I read it every week.
Any other questions from the floor? If not, we'll move on to the editor of the Courier next.
Yikes.
Is Sydney in here anywhere?
Is Zin here? Zin Lee? Okay, well, I think we'll get started for now then. Okay, so we have 6 candidates for the Courier position. Here with us today is Grace Dean, Scarlett Rowland, Ali Wilson and Harry Parsons. We also have Sydney Pinsent and Zin Lee running as well, but they couldn't make it today. Grace, would you like to start with your 30-second pitch?
Yeah, so I'm Grace Dean. I've been involved with the Courier for 3 years now, and I've been a news editor for the past year, and I really want to be your next editor of the Courier. So my flagship policy is to increase the liaison that the paper has with clubs and societies, such as by introducing writing training for how committee members can utilise the paper to publicise their events. I also want to increase distribution across campus, and I think that I would be a fantastic editor.
Hi everyone, I'm Scarlett Rowland and I'm obviously running to be editor of the Courier. I've been an arts editor for the last 2 years and been writing for 3 years of my degree. I've had a really great time being part of the student paper over the last 3 years, and if you vote for me, put number 1 next to my name, I want to make sure that you have the same great experience that I had as well. I want to increase engagement, accountability, facilities, and also facilities, engagement, employability.
Okay, that's time up.
Hi, I'm Ali, and I'd love to be your next editor of The Courier. My three main points are engagement, content, and inclusivity. I think it's a great publication, I just don't think it gets circulated enough, so I think we need to improve distribution, boost social media coverage, and engage more with societies and sports clubs so that whenever you want to know what's going on campus, you'll think, I'm going to find out in The Courier. Yeah, so have a look at my manifesto, it's online, watch my video. The song's already in your head, I'm sorry. And yeah, vote Ali.
Hello, I'm Harry. I'm currently the station manager at NSR and sports editor of the paper. I think our paper needs to focus, like everyone said, focus more on societies and sports clubs. I think by putting our focus into the teams and the amazing stuff that goes on around campus, we can cover it in new and more exciting ways. We can put it on TV, on radio, and on everything else. I think it's a really, really exciting opportunity to be able to show off everything that we do.
Okay, thanks very much. So our question to you is, obviously as editor you're also a member of the SAB team, so you're there to sort of work alongside them but also to challenge them. So how do you think you would manage that and how you go about kind of keeping that relationship working?
I think it's really important to have like a good relationship because obviously that is where you can get a huge amount of information from everybody that's doing their different jobs. I also think it's important that you're willing to hold each other to account, that your own journalists are willing to make sure that you're keeping to your promises, and actually you're willing to shine a light to the stuff that goes on in the building and make sure that you're putting through the freedom of information requests to challenge the university, but you're also willing to challenge the union that you're a part of, but you still want to be part of the team to make it as constructive and positive as possible.
Yeah, obviously, it's really important to hold the university to account, even though we are essentially part of it. I really want to make sure that I have a really good relationship with all of the other SAB teams, because I think that's really important in part of my manifesto, which is engaging with societies and engaging with sports clubs and making sure that we represent every single student on campus. And in the same way, unfortunately, the university makes mistakes, and it is the job of the Courier to expose that. So yeah, it's just about striking that balance.
So I think I probably agree with everything that's already been said. Kind of as part of my manifesto, I want to have semesterly roundups from the PTOs and the SABs so that they can like let us know the good things that they've been doing, kind of to balance it out. Be like, oh, we've done all these amazing things, but if we can still run those pieces when they've been making these mistakes, and we need to hold them to account. I think it's important to remember that there's like a professional relationship there as well. So you can hold people to account, you can ask them why they haven't been doing things. But yeah, you can just still be friends and get on at the end of the day.
Yeah, so I'd agree with everything that's already been said. So in my manifesto, I've mentioned introducing a part-time and full-time officer column, which I think would be really useful because a lot of fantastic work is done within your students' union and people aren't necessarily aware of the campaigns being carried out. So I'd like to increase the transparency in that way. But I also think it's very important that as the paper, we are the independent voice of students, and I do think students' voices need to be heard, even if it is in a slightly critical way.
Okay, thank you. We'll now open it up to questions from the floor.
Hello. In terms of critiquing the students' union and the bosses of this union we belong to, just in terms of investigation journalism, how far would you be willing to go to allow that to actually be a reality in terms of not being cowered by someone who's being paid by the SU into a piece because of their own job status or anything else, and just really engaging the community, the student community, not to be scared about their actual views without fear of repercussion or disciplinary. Thank you.
So I do think that is a very true point, and that is something the other, with the other sabbatical officers to ensure that they know exactly what's going on and ensure that any coverage provided in the paper that is investigative analyses every side of view and is as just and fair as possible.
I think for me, it's about providing the people who want to write those pieces the support to do so. We had some issues at the beginning of the year where people wanted to run investigative pieces, but they didn't have the right support and there was like legal issues. So for me, it would be about getting engaged with those people who are really interested in doing these long reads, holding the university to account, and maybe making it so that if they don't want to, they don't have to have their name published on the article. They could be anonymous, so they can say these things maybe without the repercussions that could possibly happen, because at the end of the day, it would be something that I'd be publishing and it could fall on me rather than that writer who has the time to investigate. But yeah, I think just providing the support.
Time's up.
Yeah, and the integral part of my manifesto is setting up investigation teams purely for that reason. And like that would be part of the news team, and that would be a regular thing where if there was something that someone wanted to write about, whether it's a national issue or localised student politics, I think it's really important to cover that. And obviously, it's also excellent experience for the people who want to become journalists to have that experience in investigative journalism, and they would conduct their own interviews and conduct their own research. And then also I want to introduce more writers' workshops, like Scarlett said, so that people understand the media law and know what they're allowed to print, so that we can support them through that process.
Obviously it's a bit weird electing a newspaper editor, but I think actually the benefit of that is you are the editor, you have the mandate in order to make sure that you're willing to say no when you think actually this needs to go ahead and we need to do this. Obviously when there's conflict of interest, you make sure you give someone the absolute independence, and that can be a student, a team of students who have been told what the media law is and given them that place as well. On a brand new politics page in which we focus solely on university, union and city-based issues and the region-based issues, in which we can challenge them and make sure that those two have that independence as well.
Okay, we've just got one more question over here.
Hey, hello. As an editor, I know that like a lot of the time the work that's laid up can also sort of get changed because it's necessary to like refit it to the paper when sort of the needs of the issue change. I'm just wondering how you sort of intend to keep everyone in the loop when that's going on.
Yeah, obviously communication's like really difficult because we're on a tight schedule, but actually communication between senior editors and sub-editors, and then between sub-editors and writers is really, really key. And actually I think workshops are a really good part of that. Feedback sessions is a really important part of that as well. Just making sure that everybody knows what they're doing, how they're doing, and actually whether that means at the end of every month you've just, each kind of tier of that has got to just write something back to their writers and to their editors and make sure that they feel like that's the case. If that's what we need to do, I think that'd be a really positive thing.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with Harry. I think it's important to make sure that the relationship between editors, senior editors and writers is personal, not just over Facebook. At the moment we give feedback to the sub-editors about what they've done, which is great, but it's normally in the form of a Facebook message. And that's why I think the investigation teams and the workshops, which include face-to-face contact between people who are working for the paper, is really important, because I just think communication is better then, and we're all just better friends.
Yeah, so like the first point of my employability section of my manifesto talks about giving feedback to writers, and I think I probably should have extended that to sub-editors giving each other feedback, so like the culture editors giving it to their sub-editors, because I think there has been some issues this year with people being very frustrated that their work that they've spent so long on being changed, and it's not always very clear why that's happened. And so even if it means letting people know on a Thursday, Friday, hey, if you want to come in and change some of your layout, we can work with you, and it just gives people the opportunities to actually like get better rather than just being told. Cool.
So yeah, I agree with everything that's been said, and I also think it's very important to have close liaison with the writers as well to ensure that their work is of as good a quality as possible. So as part of my manifesto, I want to introduce writers' workshops aimed specifically at international students who might be a bit more hesitant, who might not have had as much experience in writing journalistic pieces in English. And I also want to increase the amount of socials that are for both writers and editors together to ensure a really strong relationship.
Okay, thanks for that. And we've got one final question from the floor now.
How do you ensure that voices from different cultures are heard, different minorities are heard more regularly, and speak up more, and make sure it's more equal in terms of representation?
So one of the points in my manifesto, I think I mentioned, is to have a column written every week rotating between the full-time and part-time officers. And a lot of the part-time officers cover liberation roles, so I feel like in their roles they can encompass a lot of things that are happening regarding minority groups on campus, and they can spread publicity about the campaigns that they're running. And I also want the news section of the paper to be maybe more representative of students' voice and enable students to really talk about what matters to them.
Yeah, so I think obviously we run pieces when there's like Black History Month or Trans Awareness Week, but I think it's important to keep that representation going all year round, because it makes it seem very tokenistic of like, okay, we're going to shine a light on these people for this 1 month, but that's the only time that their voice actually matters. So having that engagement with different societies to kind of let them explain what they're doing at the moment, and just kind of encourage more people to write for the paper and get involved. So yeah, I think just working on all those societies and making sure there's representation all year round rather than just tokenistic weeks or months.
As speeches editor this year, I've run quite a few double-page spreads. Like, for example, I did one for Black History Month, I did one for International Women's Day, and the response to that was really good. This kind of ties in with me wanting to have one social media officer who, instead of waiting for societies to come to us, we need to go to them and say, what events have you got going on? What coverage can we give you? Because we need to support them. And that, by extension, will mean that people from that society will then go pick up the paper, they might want to write for them, and that personal relationship, again, is built up between that one person at the paper and, yeah, with societies.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, you've got to go to societies and liberation groups that want to work like that. You've also got to make sure that your team, that your sub-editor, senior editor team looks like the university it's there to represent. And you've got to make sure that, therefore, you're willing to put that work in at the beginning of the year to make sure that you have a team that can focus on things that are going like that. Through the investigative journalism, you've got to make sure that when you are doing investigations into things that affect minority groups, you have people that are part of those groups at the centre of those investigations to make sure that you can really you actually make a difference and it means something to them.
Okay, so thanks very much to our editor of the Courier candidates, and good luck this week. Next up, we have a role very close to my own heart. It's the education officer. Okay, so can we have Adam, Melanie and Pablo to the floor, please?
Okay, so Pablo, can we have your 30 seconds on why people should vote for you?
We listen to the candidates, please. First up, Pablo.
So hello, my name is Pablo. I'm running for education officer. I am the current international students officer, the school rep of the business school. And my main point, so please vote for me.
Next up, Mel.
Hi guys, I'm Mel. If you want someone that will understand you, I've been an undergrad, a study abroad, and a postgrad here. So I'm all clued up on education. It's also what I study, and so if you want someone that will go above and beyond for you, vote Mel for education.
Hello, I'm Adam Warner. I'm the current chair of council. So if you want someone with relevant experience for the role, who works alongside the current education officer and knows a lot about a job, which you only have a year to learn and to change things, then vote for Adam Warner, who can promise you fair assessment, student outreach programme and transferable printer credits.
Okay, so thanks candidates. So the question we've got is, one of the key roles of the education officer is to oversee the whole academic rep system. Now, there's a lot of work that goes on with the reps, but sometimes we know that it can be difficult to feed back to students on what work's gone on. Sometimes students might want to change, and we know and reps have worked with the university, and that can't happen. But then sometimes there's work that's the change that has been made, and it's about feeding that down. So is there any steps that you would take to help close that feedback loop?
I think sort of a big campaign around "you said, we gave you," sort of those words, and sort of broadcasting out on all sort of media platforms that NUSU has available, encouraging student reps and people in student voice committees to then communicate that themselves is a good way to go about that.
No, I agree, but I think as well maybe hosting like termly events with the course rep and their course, see if we can facilitate that just so that they can feed back to their students and make sure that they're kept in the loop. And
yeah, I think that currently course reps, school reps, any kind of reps do an amazing job. I know that they are doing great things out there. Nobody's hearing about them. And what I think we need to do is promoting using the social media what they are doing and what they can do, because there is no room to do more stuff. But I think that the students need to be informed about what the reps are currently doing.
Okay, thanks candidates. We're now going to open up to questions from the floor.
Hi there, my question's for Pablo. I'd just like to ask, the SAB team this year I think have made it quite clear that the Robinson Library are refusing to put microwaves in there. So how are you planning to get that done?
Yeah, so basically this has been an issue that has been going on for more than 10 years. I I think that you have articles in the tab where you see that this president will bring the microwaves to the library and nothing happens. And I think that's a loose end. Something needs to happen with that. We cannot, like students, I don't think there is a single student that doesn't want microwaves in the library. And we want to tackle affordability and welfare. So we need to do this. Creating reports that will prove to the university that there can be microwaves in the library. And
yeah, thanks for that, Pablo.
Got any other questions?
My question is for Mel, yeah. You talk about on the flyer about study spaces during renovation. How are you going to challenge that?
So there's loads of renovations going on in the Daesh in the Claremont building, and that means that a lot of students have essentially lost their group study spaces. So hopefully I'm going to try to work with the with the university to use better seminar rooms and lecture theatres so that you can rent them out and use those for study space so that the space you've lost you can find somewhere else.
Okay, any more questions?
I think I'll take one actually. So, if there's, what would the one academic issue be that you would want to prioritise in your time as education officer? The key thing that you think affects more students? Adam, do you want to start?
I think the main issue is addressing the attainment gap. So for those who don't do as well or drop out compared to other students, be that because they have to commute, be that because they're from certain backgrounds or part of certain minority groups, I think the main focus as one of my main policies is a learning difficulties outreach program to sort of address this attainment gap and investigate why it exists.
I think mine would be more affordability, so things like printer credit and dissertation binding and field trips and placements, all the things that we have to do as students, I want those to be more affordable or as affordable as possible. Ideally, cut all the costs, so I'll see what I can do.
Yeah, so I don't think there is a single thing I want to focus on. Of course, I want to be more flexible with the assessments. Some people don't experience the same assessment the same way as other people do it. I want to improve feedback. I think I told it in the last debate. There is still people that are not receiving feedback for some assessments. And obviously, I want to improve the mental health of some students here, supporting them, increasing the recap that is available for modules. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so there's not any final questions, then I think we'll move on to the next role. Okay, thanks to our candidates. Good luck this week. Next up, we have International Students Officer. Okay, so do we have Chinya? Nope. Is Chinya here, International Students candidate? Okay, I think we move on then. Next up is LGBT officer. Can we have Tobias to the floor, please?
Okay, so we're going to start with 30 seconds on why people should vote for you.
Hi, I'm Tobias. I've been part of the LGBT Society for the last 3 years. People know who I am there. I'm really passionate about LGBT plus issues and I want to engage with career service, Rainbow NCL, improve the accessibility for mental health to try and get a LGBT plus specific counsellor, and I'll do quarterly drop-in sessions with LGBT plus people. Thank you.
Okay, so my question would be, is there any sort of collaborative campaigns that you'd like to work on with other officers in your team?
So I would love to work with, hopefully, the marginalised genders officer to increase awareness for like trans awareness and non-binary issues. Also, I would like to potentially collaborate with the with BAME students because a lot of LGBT plus history is rooted in BAME culture. When you've got voguing and stuff like that, it all stems from their work as well, so I want them to have the representation
Okay, so we'll open it up to the floor for any questions.
Raise your hands if you want us to come around the mic. Any questions for the LGBT candidate? Oh, Jack.
Yeah, my question is, why do you think there has to be an LGBT counsellor themselves? Essentially, if you go to counselling, you're not meant to be, the counsellor shouldn't be sharing their own personal experience.
Even if they aren't LGBT themselves, at least be trained in LGBT plus specific issues. So I was very lucky when I went to the uni counselling and I actually did get an LGBT plus specialist as a counsellor, and I think that's vital, especially when mental health rates with trans students and LGBT plus students are so high that I think it's good. It would be good for the uni to know that we do support you and we do understand where you're coming from. So yeah, that's what I think. I'll lobby for it. I want it.
Okay, any other questions? No? Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Bison, good luck next week. Next up, we have our candidate for Marginalised Genders Officer.
My one fan.
Okay, so your 30 seconds on why people should vote for you.
So, hi, I'm Maria Ma. I'm running for your Marginalised Genders Officer. Pardon the pun. Yeah, so my 3 main points are that I will vocally oppose transphobia and sexism on campus because it's ridiculous how so much of it just gets brushed under the carpet, especially in some societies. I would also love to have more safe spaces and opportunities for transgender and marginalised genders to actually come to me and talk to me about their issues. For example, you know, if there are binary toilets where really we might like some neutral ones. And yeah, just continue the amazing work that has been carried out throughout the last 3 years by the past marginalised genders officers. So yeah, please vote for me.
Okay, so my question to you is, how do you see yourself working with the other part-time officers and sabbatical officers to achieve your aims?
So I would very much like to work with the LGBT plus officer to run Trans Awareness Week again and hold a specific Beyond the Binary meet-up and event for non-binary students because it's still not very well known about, and we really need to increase awareness and acceptance of trans, non-binary and gender non-conforming students. I would also like to work with other officers who have an insight into what it's like to be a woman of colour or someone who's a working class student, from various backgrounds, which I don't know about.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the floor? Any questions? Okay, you're obviously convincing enough.
Yeah.
Well then, good luck this week.
Phew, I didn't have to do my dance.
Yeah, so good luck to Maria, our marginalised genders officer candidate. Next up, we have the brand new sabbatical role, the postgraduate officer. Can we have our 3 candidates to the floor, please? That's Mikesh, Chris, and Karina.
Got Chris anywhere?
He's asked a question, so he should be here. Well, if Chris comes back, he can, so I'll just start anyway.
Okay, so we'll take your 30-second speech on who you are and why people should vote for you.
Hi, my name is Karina Soros. I'm running for postgraduate officer, and you should vote for me because I advocate for equality for everyone, inclusivity, and transparency.
Hello, I'm Mikesh Luka and I'm running for postgraduate officer. If you want a postgraduate officer, that will increase social events for postgraduates.
Sorry about that. I nipped off to the loo because I didn't think I was up yet. So the reasons why you should vote for me are, first of all, I'm going to access or increase access to digital mental health services because I think that people should have access through the university computer system to services where they can help themselves, an extra sort of resource which will hopefully decrease the strain on well-being. Secondly, I want more postgraduate spaces. on campus. And also, I would like to introduce a scheme whereby students on arrival at the university are matched into small groups based on shared interests and start to engage with society. Thank you.
Okay, so our question is, obviously the postgraduate officers there represent both postgraduate taught students and postgraduate research students, as there is a significant number of both on campus. Now, as you're all postgraduate taught students, the question is, what do you think is the single biggest issue affecting postgraduate research students, and why do you think you're well equipped to tackle them?
For me, I think it's society engagement, which is obviously the cornerstone of my manifesto. Because they're postgraduate research students, they have even less sort of contact hours and engagement with the university. So I think having events like an extra day at Freshers Fair, specifically for postgraduate students, and this scheme I'd like to roll out about small groups and society engagement, I think are both things that will really help solve that issue.
I could agree with Chris, but I also feel that working space is a major issue at this university for research students, as they don't really have the space to work, and me included as a taught student, I find it very hard to find a spot where I can actually work and get on and even collaborate with my friends. So that is one of the main parts of my manifesto, and I hope to implement it in the coming future. Thank you.
So right now there's a big division between research and taught students, and that goes along with society, space, and just representation within the union itself. So I really want to advocate for a group that works with all postgraduates, research and taught, to get their student voice and actually hear your voice, not just the union's voice. And that comes within transparency and being honest with you guys.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from the floor?
Any questions, please raise your hand, we'll come round with the mic. Any questions to our first ever postgraduate officer? Not that it's significant or anything. Yeah.
So, as a postgrad student myself, it's been loads of fun, dying for my degree. How would you actually help postgraduate students with mental health and welfare, since many people are only here for 1 year doing their masters? So, yeah, what would you do?
Yep. So I'm actually trying to work for a resilient working group that combats mental health issues faced within assessed assignments, and also forming some actual consistent feedback for postgraduate students. We only have most of our feedback at the end of the term and not in the beginning. And having consistent feedback would provide us with actually doing well on our assignments and really helping each other. And the mental health issue is something that I think most people try to hide away, but a lot of people face it. I do too, which is why it's one of my key points in my manifesto. And so having those groups that really combat mental health issues would be super helpful for postgraduates, research and taught.
As someone who has used these services, it is majorly important to me. So what I would do is just collaborate with the rest of the officers to ensure that the university provides enough mental health for postgraduate students throughout the whole year, because I know that this 1 year in masters has been incredibly draining for me mentally. So hence why I'll work with the officers to ensure that postgraduates do get the support that they need. Thank you.
I mean, it's no secret that the wellbeing services are under strain here at the university, purely for the amount of people who need to access them. So my idea about providing digital mental health services through the university system, I'm hoping will ease the strain on wellbeing, because some people can use things like Silver Cloud, which is the main one I would like to roll out, to combat things like exam stress, anxiety, depression, and it gives those people an option if they'd rather not use the formal processes at first as well. So I think it's really important.
Okay, thanks for our comments for that. Any final questions?
Hello. From my time as a postgraduate student representative, I know that there's a barrier between many postgraduate students and getting involved in student democracy. For example, bodies such as the Student Council. I was just wondering what ideas you may have in order to overcome this barrier and get them more engaged.
Thank you for that question. So I would like to implement a postgraduate executive at NUSU. I'm on the Welfare and Campaigns Exec, which is chaired by the Welfare and Equality Officer Jack Green. I'd like to use a similar model for a postgraduate executive to plan and run campaigns specifically targeted at that community. and hopefully this will come with ring-fence seats on student council, so that postgrads feel more engaged and more able to turn up to these sort of NUSU events.
And Mikesh?
One of the major points in my manifesto is increasing events for postgraduates, such as social events, to help integrate them better into this university, because I felt when I came here there was not enough events for postgraduates specifically. So I plan to host an event every month, and especially at the very beginning of the year, increase the amount of events specifically for postgraduates so they can integrate better with the university. Thank you.
Yeah, so I think you've touched on a big point, that there is such a disconnect between postgraduate students and the union and council. One of my key points is to actually integrate more postgraduates into the council and union and really campaign for the student voice. And I think the creation of this position allows us to do that and is a head start for that. So whether or not that's going to be forming another committee or not, that's another case, or just meeting with you guys. But I really advocate that this position is the start of integrating postgraduates into it.
Okay, thank you. I think that's all we've got time for. So thanks very much, candidates. Good luck this week. Can we have our candidates for Welfare and Equality Officer, please?
Thanks, everyone. Hold the cash.
Also, there's free donuts over there, so everyone gets them.
Okay, so this year we've got 3 candidates for Welfare and Equality Officer, Alana, Charlotte and Sarah.
Okay, Sarah, would you like to go first with your 30 seconds on why people should vote for you? Can we just have quiet for the candidates, please?
Hello, I'm Sarah, and I'm running for the position of Welfare and Equality Officer. I aim to increase integration on campus, ensure that there's better mental health services available, and more awareness on sexual consent and sexual assault, as well as drugs and alcohol. So I want to be a voice that represents all voices. Vote for me, number 1.
Alright, hi everyone, I'm Alana, I'm a 4th year psychology student. I'd love it if you could vote for me and put a number 1 by my name. I am... Take 2. So yeah, hi, I'm Alana, and I'm running for Welfare and Equality Officer. My 3 main policies are to focus on mindfulness training, to also introduce an annual memorial service for any Newcastle students who have ever lost their lives here, so that they're never forgotten, and also to introduce drop-in sessions with me, so you can book an individual slot, so you have the opportunity to talk to me about any problems, issues or concerns that you may have. So yeah, I'm hopefully showing to you that I've got passion for this. I'm really enthusiastic. Oh, sorry.
Hi, I'm Charlotte. I'm the current marginalised genders officer and I'm on various committees, etc. So I've got loads of experience in this. My main points are about improving welfare training for personal tutors. We need real mental health support that comes from staff, not just student-led. Sexual consent leaflets for freshers packs to roll out across all students, and to improve PEC forms to be fairer for bereavement, medical evidence, things like that. And this is my dream job, so please vote for me, number 1.
Okay, thank you. So our question to you is, what for you is the most important welfare and equality issue, and what do you plan to do to tackle it?
For me, I think mental health has to be at the top of priority. It affects 1 in 4 people. It affects various groups in different levels. For example, LGBT people are more likely to suffer from depression, anxiety, there's different things that I think we've done there. I think we need to have real support through staff-led projects. We need to improve student wellbeing services. We shouldn't rely on students. Mind the Gap do incredible work, but it's incredibly labour-intensive, and we just need to do more to make it better for all students.
Yeah, I have to 100% agree. Mental health is an absolutely massive problem at the moment. I've been involved in Mind the Gap since I started here 3 years ago, and from that you can just see how many people are affected by anxiety issues, depression issues, as well as more specific things like eating disorders, OCD, etc. Through my mindfulness training scheme, I would really, really like to make sure that mental health isn't something that's just tackled within clinical populations, but it's something that we consider amongst the general population as well. Anyone at any point during their university experience can be affected by stress, can be affected by pressure, and so this scheme will really enable people to get involved in that.
I would agree with what others say, but particularly for me, integration is something that's massively lacking in the uni. At the moment, we see a lot of the same ethnic or same gender groups kind of hanging out together. We need more integration. We need to celebrate different cultures every day on campus. It shouldn't just be Black History Month. It shouldn't just be LGBT Awareness Week. We should always be involved in cultures. And even if you're not part of a specific culture, we should always be in it and meeting other people all the time. So that's what I would say is the most important thing for me.
Okay, thanks candidates. We'll now open that up to questions from the floor. Raise your hand and we'll cram the mic. Yep.
So sometimes people can feel a little bit intimidated, like when it comes to integration with different ethnic groups and things like that. You have a lot of like representation for different ethnic groups, but how would you maybe encourage them to collaborate a little bit more or get us to integrate a little bit more, I guess?
So a couple of my policies are an international food fair, basically creating a space where cultures can share their traditions with other students. People can come along, try a bit of your food, talk to people about what that culture means behind that food so there's no cultural appropriation involved. Also an art fair I want to do where people from different cultures represent their arts, different minorities, whether that's music, that's fine art, whether that's poetry, creative writing. Basically creating spaces where people can naturally meet and get along. So.
No, I 100% agree with you. I think integration is a massive issue. It's definitely something we really need to focus on. And for me, I guess through my policies with mindfulness training schemes and things like that, it's something that will be very much targeted to everybody. But I do feel like there needs to be a lot more events on campus that aren't just picking out. It is important that we represent certain groups, 100%, but it's also so important that we have more things that everybody can relate to, and there's no reason that anybody can be left out or be excluded from. So,
I think working with the newly renamed liberation officers is really important in this because, for example, racial equality, the racial equality officer will probably have a lot more information about what they want to see rather than myself, obviously, and I think kind of using these representatives to give you access to these groups and make you more aware of what these groups want. I think collaboration between officers, societies, different groups is really important. Definitely echo what you both said. I think it's about making kind of a safe space and the ability for you to work together. Stop doing this.
Okay, any more questions from the floor?
Hi. I was wondering, like, obviously liberation societies are a huge part of like welfare and equality. So I was wondering if you guys have had any experience within your liberation societies and what you've done for that and how you're going to use that sort of experience for your role, whoever gets it.
So I was Secretary for LGBT Society last year as well as Treasurer for FEMSOC and Campaigns Manager for FEMSOC this year. I'm Secretary for It Happens Here. I'm organising the panels for the Mind the Gap conference. I'm a part-time officer in marginalised genders. Liberation is literally my life. I don't do anything else. So I think I've got a lot of experience from the very first week. All I did was go to FEMSOC, LGBT, all these kind of things. I think they're really important. And this is literally my dream job. And I think all the experience I have from the society will really help with that.
So I guess like Charlotte, I've been on committees for various different liberation societies. I've spent the last 3 years with Mind the Gap and I've been discussions lead and secretary for them. So I ran fortnightly discussions on mental health topics, which was for all students. I'm also president of Jewish Society this year. I've previously been treasurer for them, and I've been involved in a lot of interfaith events since I've been at uni. So I've been on the panel for interfaith events. I've also stood with the Stand Up for Racism Society and been there as a speaker to talk at their events. So I really feel like everything I've gained will definitely be useful and beneficial for next year.
So I predominantly worked in Afro-Caribbean Society. I was social sec and then I stood in for vice president last year. So part of that was not just creating social events like alcoholic-based socials, but also ensuring that students were, we did a lot of collaborative events with Northumbria, so we saw where those cultures were not represented that much. And also I made sure that we did networking events and stuff like that, so that there was more like institutional representation. So that's where predominantly my experience has been.
Okay, well, I think we've got time for just one more question from the audience.
Hello. In terms of actual campaigning on the ground around getting more funding towards the mental health service, how far would you be willing to go in terms of collaboration with the next, I keep saying that, don't know how far you're willing to go, it's a bit weird, with the next El Presidente, in terms of, you know, demonstrating and actually getting more engagement, well, in a political...
Firstly, we should be making sure there's like complete awareness on the services here. I think there's so much concentration in counselling and therapy when there should be more concentration on alternative mental health services. Not everyone can do counselling. I struggle with counselling. I think we need to make sure the uni is emailing about what I want to do is have services here. So I want to have workshops led by students that encourage students to take up like the arts and therapeutic mediums, so doing poetry and music and art, but make sure the uni send emails and make people aware of that.
Yeah, I think it's pretty clear from all of our manifestos and also a lot of the president's manifestos that mental health is such an important concern for everyone at the moment. It's definitely something I will be focusing on if I were to be elected next year. A lot of my policies are revolved around mental health. Like I mentioned before about the mindfulness training scheme, it's not, yes, we have the student wellbeing service, but there's this question of a lot of people are left in limbo while they're waiting to receive therapy and they're waiting to receive counselling. So I'm hoping that a lot of my policies will be able to fill in that gap and enable people to kind of have some sort of support network while they're waiting for therapy, etc.
Yeah, I think having a holistic approach and kind of making sure that there's different SABs that are all gone in for the same progress is really important. I'm really lucky I've already met with various directors in student progress and in wellbeing that kind of agree with my ideas about improving welfare training, so I think that's a good way to go when you've already got these relationships. To kind of push for that is easier than when you're coming in fresh. But yeah, I just think pushing for that and make sure everyone's on the same page and everyone knows what you're kind of trying to change and that you don't get sidetracked by people complaining about budgets, etc. Because mental health is more important than that.
Okay, thanks very much, candidates. That's all we've got time for. Good luck this week.
Next up, we have our candidate, Student Parents, Guardians and Carers Officer. So, is Armani here? Okay, we'll move along then to our candidates for Racial Equality Officer. So could Alexander and Rabia come to the front, please?
The reasons why you should vote for me are both dank memes and the fact that I have a New York City accent, but serious answer, I believe that we need more cultural events on this student campus, and I don't think it's too much of a secret that generally people stick to their own culture or people who they think and act similarly to, and I think that there should be more interaction between these two groups.
Hi, my name's Rabia Chima, and I think I've been the BAME rep on 2 different Liberation Committee societies, so I do have experience representing people of colour and hosting events specifically, not only for us, but for also integration, and those are like my experience. I really like to bring that to this role. Not only do I have experience, but I have a lot of ideas. I want to do community meetings. I don't think it should just be one person of colour representing all BAME people. I think there should be community meetings. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for that. Question we have today then is that is there anything you'd like to do, say working with Newcastle City Council, to increase representation of diverse races within the city?
I guess one important way we can increase diversity in the city, honestly, is with these cultural events. It'll show that Newcastle University is far more cosmopolitan. It'll be so that minorities, not only in the United Kingdom, But people from cultures all across the planet realize that when they go to Newcastle, not only is there a little bit of their culture there, but there's a little bit of other cultures that they can interact with and they can learn from and that they can bring back to their own homes.
I think that's a great point. I think that's a great point that Alex has done. Yeah, I think hosting events within our uni and different campaigns through like Black History Month and also like LGBT Awareness Week and Trans Awareness Week and all of those different campaigns will, if they're open to the public, we can really help bring diversity within the council. And then, yeah.
Okay, we're going to open up to questions from the floor. Anyone got a question? Your activity officer, so good. Hello, I just wanted to ask, did either of you attend any of the events over the last 2 weeks for the NU Festival of Culture, and how in your role as Racial Equality Officer will you support that event to grow further next year?
I did not because I'm in second year dentistry and I've had exams for the past 2 weeks, but I did hear about it and I'm sorry that I couldn't have come. I would like to host different cultural events. I'd like promote it through different societies as well, not just, I think you did through LGBT, a lot of different societies, but I'd like to do that through like Hindu and Sikh society, ACS. I just promote it a lot and make sure people are aware of it, that it's happening. Yeah, sorry that I couldn't make it.
I think my opponent touched on something very important, which is awareness. And sadly for me as well, I wasn't able to attend any events due to the fact that by the time I found out that there was a week of culture, it was more or less the last day, and I wasn't able to sign up in time for those events, sadly. And I think the most important thing is when I did look through the event list, it's very beautiful, it's very cosmopolitan, it's very amazing to go through that. But I think the important thing is not only just sort of more marketing, but more marketing in terms of posters on campus as well as say boosted social media posts. Because the more people know about it, the more people spread about it, the more it will grow.
Got any other questions from the floor?
No? Okay then, if we haven't got any more questions then, was one over there? No? Okay. Well, thanks to our candidates. If you'd like to make your way down. Next up we have the candidates.
Please clap.
Next up we have the candidates for Scrutiny Officer. Okay, so we have our three Scrutiny Officer candidates, Emma Dawson, Alice Fish and Jamie Hampton. We'll start off with Alice.
Hi, I'm Alice Fish, and I want to make sure that we as a student body can enact change and will hold our university accountable. I really want to make sure that our student democracy is as representative of our student body as possible. I want to look at how council and our student democracy functions, talk to students. I know that Adam's been running polls at the moment, and just make sure we can improve that, generally speaking, and do what the students want.
Hi, I'm Emma Dawson. I'm running for Scrutiny Officer. I was Scrutiny Officer in 2017. Was nominated for Best Part-Time Officer of the Year, so I've already got tons of experience, tons of confidence in the role. If you elect me to be an ex-Scrutiny Officer, I want to raise awareness of how students can get involved in the accountability processes of the Students' Union, how they can find out what to do if they're not happy with their elected officer's performance, and how they can kind of get involved and find out what the key issues are.
Woo! Hi, I'm Jamie Hampton, and I think that the role of Scrutiny Officer is not only to increase accountability and transparency within the student union, I also think it's to find inefficiencies within the system, because part of the job is to make sure it runs efficiently. I'll be doing that by reviewing the complaint procedure and hopefully working with the welfare officer in order to tackle grassroots issues. That's where the sneaking pods and the rubber might come from, if anyone's willing to ask about that.
Let's go do time!
Okay, so obviously as Scrutiny Officer, it's your job to scrutinise, and that comes with the ability to be impartial. Where do you think you stand with that, and especially alongside potentially being scrutinising your friends or people that you know? So how do you think you're going to manage that?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Obviously, doing the role before, I've had to already kind of consider those issues of impartiality. And one of the great things about the role as well is when you've got your committee support you in making those impartial decisions, because it's a structure that's designed to prevent you being able to make those decisions like as a sole person. So there's already accountability structures within the role. And I think as well with impartiality, like having been through the role before and knowing kind of all of the sort of implications of that, I think it's kind of having the experience as well.
When it comes to impartiality, I've facilitated discussions before at museums about ethics, for example, but obviously I have my own ethical views, and I mean, I've had to put those aside before in many contexts, and I think if I have a friend, I am able to really consider what they've done. Just because they're my friend doesn't mean that they aren't fallible, and I think, and also I'm not fallible, and I think, for example, if there was a situation where I really thought I was unable to stay neutral, I can always call one of my committee members, scrutiny committee or disciplinary committee members, to chair instead if I think I'm unable to do that.
Thank you. I think it's very simple actually. Accountability is objective. I don't think if you're friends with anyone or if there's any kind of crossover in what you believe in, I don't think it should affect what's right and wrong. I think it's quite clearly laid out what's right and wrong in the student union, and I think any inefficiencies or anything that should be scrutinised will be scrutinised. Thank you.
Okay, so we'll open up with questions from the floor, but first we've had one submitted in advance. That's for you, Jamie. Sleeping pods in the library. Why do you think this is in the remit of your role when it's to hold elected officers to account? And also, like you said, working on efficiencies, and do you not think this is encouraging an unhealthy lifestyle, given that any form of exercise can be of great benefit and mental well-being?
I'm very glad this question's been asked actually, because it gives me time to clarify on this. In order to tackle inefficiencies in the system, I think that we need to look at strategies which can help mitigate root problems, and I think at the moment mental health is a big problem. And what we can see is that in the University of East Anglia and in the University of Manchester, where sleeping pods have been implemented in libraries, not only has it increased student satisfaction, it has actually reduced reported amounts of student stress, the pressures put on students with mental health issues, and it's there to actually improve grades and cognitive function, which it does.
Okay, have we got any questions from the floor?
Hi, Jamie, I can't help but be concerned by your manifesto point about making the voting record of elected officials on council, including PTOs and full-time officers, public. This was actually debated at council, I think, two years back, to which contestment. Do you not feel, amongst many other problems, that making the voting record public would encourage officers to be influenced by their vote, by how people perceive them, rather than what they think is the right way to vote? Surely we should trust the fact that they're elected officials and they will vote in the right way as they've been mandated to do so.
Well, I think if you're voting based on the fact that you're doing it in line with how you might perceive, you're doing it for the wrong reasons. If you're worried about how people might perceive how you voted, then either you've got something to hide or you're not, you don't really believe in what you're voting in.
That's why it should be public.
And I think it should be public, because people should know what their elected officers are doing. If you're worried about that, it suggests you've got something to hide.
Okay, have we got any other questions from the floor?
I just wanted to say, in regards to Harrison's point, obviously it's not on my manifesto, but I think when it comes to publicising vote as well, it might cause some concerns, especially if it's easily accessible in regards to future employment, because there might be people who disagree with your views in that way. And also, I think generally in democracy, a lot of us do agree that having a voting system that is anonymous helps protect the rights of the people voting. I think we do already have minutes and what people speak for and against in council, and I think what people speak for, I think campaigning for, lobbying for something, in the end has more impact than what you vote for. So I think that's what we should focus on personally.
It does say in my long manifesto that it will only be stored for the amount of time it needs to be stored in compliance with GDPR law.
Yeah, but even then, it's still even then, employers can still look at that, even if it's only on there for a month at a time, for example.
Before we move on from this, Emma, would you like to contribute anything to this?
Yeah, I was in the council that you've mentioned where people were talking about the potential to make public the voting public. I think it is a consultation that is worth happening because as well we need to think about who does that extend to? Is that sabbatics and PTOs? Is that every councillor? Is it also people that kind of come and go from council on a non-semi-frequent basis? I think that it is worth having a larger discussion because I think that there is an appetite to see how people voted and the accountability that's kind of an implication of that. So I think a further consultation is definitely worthwhile.
Okay, we've got time for one more question if anyone has one.
How would you increase awareness of the Scrutiny Committee and disciplinary action taken within university so that people actually know what's going on in our union and what happens in the student council? Because I didn't know about it until like 2 years ago.
I think that's like a really good question because one of the things that kind of comes up a lot is that people don't actually know what scrutiny means and what the powers are, and that was like a point that I ran on, was to raise awareness of kind of the findings of it and also kind of what it is. So I think part of a wider educational kind of campaign about engagement in those accountability processes will be letting students know what the committees do, how they can get involved, especially when the elections for them are coming up, and kind of what the implications of the work that they do is on the wider student body and how they can kind of find the findings.
In regards to that, I really want to push again for more publicity on the NUSU Facebook page because you really don't see much apart from about like what the sabbatical officers do, and obviously that is really important. But I think we do need more like publicity when it comes to that. Also, I really want to work with the Courier in regards to investigative journalism and the Freedom of Information Acts that scrutiny officers or what will be chair of scrutiny often do push for. And so I want to work on that so it's more widely read by students, put it on the Facebook page, also maybe include it in emails, but people do look at the Facebook page more than emails. So.
I think it's a very important point actually that we do need to increase presence on social media in terms of the scrutiny committee and things like that. I've said that I would work with the welfare officer in order to tackle some grassroots issues. I think working with the Courier, which are already heavily involved with the student council, is a good thing. I also think maybe if people aren't aware of what the student union does or what certain branches of it do, and we need to increase engagement and participation, we could have events on where we introduce people to what the student council is, what they do, and hopefully that could tackle underlying problems with representation and things like that.
Okay, thanks very much to our scrutiny officer candidates. Can we now, good luck next week, and can we have the candidates for president up next, please? And for anyone who doesn't know, voting's already open, so vote. 50p from each vote is going to go to Student Mind, so get going, please.
Working. Oh, it's working.
Okay, so we get more candidates now. Sorry.
You've got my name. That's no good, is it? I mean, I'll just get it out.
Okay, so Jack, you've got 30 seconds.
Jack Lahesi, that's who it is.
There we go.
Okay,
You've
Jason
got
Bell,
30 seconds to tell us why people should vote for you. Off you go.
Obviously, I don't go to with him if it's like, oh, 30 seconds, it started. Right, my name's Jack. I'm a third year law student at Newcastle University. I've been on the student council, I've been on the exec committee, and if you've had a look at my manifesto, it's mental health, big thing, huge thing in mental health, sport and initiations. So there you go. Have a look.
Making it more democratic, more accountable, just more representative of students. So my policies are focused on that, on moving resources into focusing on the root cause of problems, and of course on focusing on issues that benefit students in general. So cheap drinks, big manifesto point. Please vote for me.
Hi, I'm John. By running, I was trying to bring attention to this election outside the usual voting minority of students. Unfortunately, I've upset and offended some people, which was never my intention. Sorry about that, and if you don't like me, I recommend you vote for one of many great candidates, such as Asif, Chris, Jack, Jason, Katie, or Ron. Thanks.
Yo, thanks a lot for staying until now. I know you've been here for ages. My name is Asif, and my ideas and manifesto focuses on making the student life more interactive and overall easier. Although working on bigger issues and things is important, but those things take years and years to progress, especially for such a big organisation as Newcastle University. So I'd work on those issues as well as look for the quick wins and make student life more interactive. Thank you. Work for me.
Hi, I'm Katie. So 3 main things. I want students to know their rights, I want better focus on student wellbeing, and I want to ensure campuses as safe as possible. So if you want a president that's going to fight for you, Smithers for winners.
Hello, I'm Jamie. I'm the current Scrutiny Officer, and I've been all around the place too, Mind the Gap, Labour, so on. And I actually have a really radically transformative platform. If we want to address the real problems of this university and union, we need to bring more money into our union. We need to reform our democracy by student consultation, so you, yes you, get to choose how it's spent. That's so important.
Hello everyone, I'm Chris. I'm the current Race Equality Officer and President of the Classic Society. Now if you've seen your manifesto, focus on 3 points: mental health, representation and affordability. But the very core of these points is the idea that the Students' Union should take the power, the influence and the potential of every single student, not just in the university, but to the heart of the city as well. You lot are extremely, extremely powerful, and if you vote for Chris Wilkinson, then I can get you many, many things in the city. So vote Chris Wilkinson.
Okay, so a question from us. You guys have all got loads of ideas in your manifestos. But as we know, our current president also spends a lot of time sat on university committees and supporting the union's 3-year strategic plan. So how are you going to balance all of those whilst still fulfilling all of the points on your manifesto?
So I understand that the administrative side of the president is also an absolutely massive job. But the thing is that the admin isn't necessarily separated from my manifesto points. A lot of the things I want to do work absolutely with the university during those meetings, which are just admin. I'm interested in representing students absolutely everywhere. I'm not the kind of president I would be the kind of president who would just sit down and just do the bare minimum. I want to take it to another level. So yeah.
So admin's important, you've got to do it first, but the real light and important part of this role, I think, is to actually bring real change to the union, the university. So you do the admin first, and then you move on to the real important stuff. We need to radically transform the democracy of this place in such a way that you might not even be able to recognise this union in the near future.
I think in terms of balance and everything, I think we've all proven that we can do that. The fact that we're running for this position whilst doing all the other stuff that we've all said that we've done and doing our degrees, I think that is enough to prove that I'm capable.
Yeah, I agree with what everyone else has said. I feel like balance is important, just like anything else. We all need more society, more jobs, we're all running campaigns and things like that. And doing a full-time job as a president includes all the things that are on a manifesto, which are part of a full-time job, as well as admin. So it's all about time management, and I'm sure whoever gets elected will be fine, and we're all good candidates.
Yeah, I think I would say that actually one of the things I've noticed the most about student elections is that sometimes people running for these positions can have slightly unrealistic expectations about what they can achieve when they get the job. There is a lot of important administrative stuff that you have to do. So by no means would I think that's a huge component of the job that I think sometimes gets overlooked. But when it comes down to it year after year, that's actually what a lot of the president's work ends up being.
Well, honestly, I'm a fairly dull person, and I'm an economist. So doing a lot of admin work and doing it efficiently is kind of my thing already. So, yeah.
So I think that the administrative work can be used to get in contact with the people at the top of the university, and you can use that to help your manifesto aims. So you can influence the university at a high level by using these committees that you sit on as an administrator to get your policy aims through. And like everybody else, I do a degree here, I do a lot of other things, so there was no question of balancing things really. Yeah, thanks.
Okay, so I'm just going to allow a bit more time for the President questions, just the final one. It was recently reported on the front page of the Courier that the university pay £166,000 a year for greater policing in Jesmond. What are your thoughts on this initiative and how do you think NUSU should respond? Start with you, Jack, again.
So how did you say £166,000? So that's quite something, isn't it? So, but how do NUSU should respond by supporting every campaign that the police go on, and not every campaign, but one of my key campaign policies is about drugs and about drug analysis. So I think that the NUSU should work with the police to implement safer and more accessible policies around drugs, around sexual health, around mental health, around physical health. So there you go.
I don't know exactly what that money has been spent on policing in Jesmond, but if it's generally keeping our students safe in Jesmond, I know student areas in cities tend to be much bigger risks for crimes such as burglary and robbery, because obviously students have laptops and all sorts in their houses and tend to be out all day and often all night. So if it's keeping us safer, then I think that's a pretty good use of university resources, and yeah.
Yeah, I would have to echo that sentiment. It sounds like a good practical use of university resources that would, it's effective. More policing in Jesmond just sounds like a good thing. I don't know why anyone would be opposed to that.
I feel like it's an amazing thing that so much money is being spent on safety, etc. But I also feel at the same time is for all students to be made aware of all the resources that money is being spent on, so that they can use them effectively at the same time.
Yeah, so I think the SU can work more as like a liaison between the two. So I think it's important like the SU follows up on like stuff like noise complaints and stuff like that, to make sure that students also know their rights. I think it's pretty easy for the police to come and get back it rightfully, but like I think in terms of like preventing it from happening, I think the SU could be a liaison.
I just want to say this really. We shouldn't be at the point in society where we need to help the police cover their costs. We're here because there's been massive unfunding of public services, and our union and our university should oppose that. However, when it comes down to funding them, I think so long as what they're doing is right, I don't agree with the prohibition of drugs, as was mentioned earlier. I don't think it's right. But if they're doing the right thing and helping students and helping the community, then it makes sense.
Yeah, I can't really help but echo what everyone else has said. Newcastle is such a student-orientated city. We need to really, really prioritise keeping our students safe. As Jason said, the burglaries and violence is a particular issue, and when it's the case that students have 1 in 15 houses in Newcastle compared to 1 in 196 throughout the rest of the UK, we need to pour more resources into this kind of thing.
Okay, thanks very much for your answers. Before we open it to the floor, we've had one question submitted. It's for Steve. When will the proposed plan for a swimming pool be put out into practice if you're elected, and where will it be constructed? Because I would love to know.
Yeah, so I was expecting that. Thanks for asking. So basically, everything that's in my manifesto are the things that I've in my time in Newcastle have come across, and I feel like should be added or should be changed. And I work with loads of sports teams, including the water polo team and the swimming pool team, and I've talked to them about their struggles and how they don't have anywhere to train. They have to train on outside swimming pool, outside resources. So I feel like if it's in my manifesto, doesn't mean it will happen in 1 year. It's all about kicking off. It's all about kicking things off, starting the talks. Do we have space? Why does such big universities, Newcastle universities, have a swimming pool and things like that? So if elected, I'll make sure I start the talks.
Okay, I'll look forward to seeing it. Thanks. Any questions from the floor?
Thank you. Taking the first one. So obviously some of you have put in about cheaper drinks in Luther's, which already serves £1.60 pints, but obviously the SAB team this year had to come together to face the inquest into the death of a student. Obviously that's a really challenging time, and that came from alcohol consumption, and we're working closely with the university on this, but the president often has to walk a fine line between working with the university and calling out the university, and how do you think that you would be able to manage this line?
I think it's important we hear from candidates who mentioned cheaper drinks in the manifestos. Oh, initiation, yeah. Then.
Yeah, so when it comes to walking that line, it's basically a case of if students are drinking in here, basically, because this is where we'd be talking about, they're not going to be drinking to the extent that they end up in that sort of dangerous situation. Because, I mean, there are already laws around serving drinks to kind of severely drunk people. You're not allowed to do that. So in that, I don't think it kind of comes up against that tension. But I'd also say I'm not the kind of person to take lightly people being in danger or risk or any of that sort of thing. When it comes to dealing with situations like initiations, which is obviously where that sort of thing comes from, I believe we have to be vigilant on that and really work hard to make sure these students aren't in danger. I'd absolutely take that part seriously as well.
Jack will let everyone else respond as well to that.
No, go for it. If you want drinks, we can argue that.
I think that was a good point. I think it's obviously something that we should bear in mind about the price of drinks, and you don't want to be seen to be encouraging binge drinking. At the same time, I do think you need to trust students to have a certain level of responsibility. I think in the case that was mentioned, which was an absolute tragedy, the main thing to crack down on after that is the initiations. I think that was the primary thing that had to be dealt with after that.
So if you had looked at my manifesto, there is a bit about initiations in there, and it's about providing a fresh approach to initiations. So there's a model, I think it's from the University of East Anglia, I'm pretty sure it is, 99% sure, but they advocate for cooperation with the university and the union. So the AU officer would provide oversight of the initiation, and it would be submitted beforehand, and whatever else would go with it. So everything that would go with it would be assessed by the union and sort of overseen, and that's a fresh new approach, and I think I'm the only one with that in my manifesto. So, I mean, whatever you think of them, they are here and they do happen, and it needs to be assessed.
Cheers. So obviously initiation has been an absolutely massive point. It's something that has absolutely dominated this year at the Students' Union, I think. One of the reasons why I actually didn't put it in my manifesto is because I simply thought it was a given. It's something that every single person here, if we're elected, will have to deal with at some point. What you said, Sophie, is actually extremely important. I think one thing is that you mentioned that the SAB has to come together. I won't pretend that I know absolutely everything else to do with initiations. It's an extremely tricky issue. It happens at every university, and there's been no real definite response about how to deal with this problem at any university. What we have to do is work with our SABs, pool our knowledge together, and actually be able to tackle this as a team instead of basically just trying to go at it from personal ideas, you know what I mean? So, cheers.
I think there's a few concrete things we can do to change the culture around initiations. So, for example, with the Social Society, which is really good, and I think we should also do more to support and publicise those societies that actually do put effort into having more sober socials where they don't drink. You have to change the culture around it. When it comes to men's bar, I think there's lots of good work being done already, and it's an important source of income. So I think it's fine as it is, to be honest.
I think when it comes to initiations, what I'd like to do is to keep this tragedy very much in memory. I think that's the best way you're going to go about tackling it. I'd like an annual memorial service for Ed's passing, and I think that's how you're going to get through to students, is by keeping the horror alive.
Yeah, definitely. That's something, as in particular the drinks are something that's not in my manifesto points. But I feel like it's important to find a right balance of the prices and stuff, because we don't want students to get wrecked for a £5, because that's dangerous.
Okay, we've got a question over here.
Asif, on the debates on Friday, you admitted that you don't know how the union runs in general, and particularly you don't know how the finance runs in general. Considering you're essentially a job application to be a director of a company and also a trustee of a charity, why should we have any confidence in both?
So I'd like to correct you there. Firstly, I said I've never been involved with the student council. Secondly, I said I don't know anything about the finances in the student council. Sorry. Yeah.
Okay. We've got a question over here.
Hello. Speaking from the perspective of a local student, how will you in the role engage the local community and not continue the perception in some quarters that Newcastle University is this elitist, distant kind of institution that isn't for the people, that is for, like, you know, the middle class or upper classes, you know, coming from down south, and engage in a wider section of the community to actually be a beacon for Newcastle itself, and empowering people and enlightening them through that.
Yeah, to answer that question. Now, I know that this is something that was recently brought up in Student Council, and Sean, I think, is in the room somewhere, but she did an absolutely fantastic job in that she brought up the idea of a local student PTO, someone who could represent local students and the problems that they're going through, especially with things like commuting. One of the ways that we can actually do that is by basically integrating the Students' Union more into the city, by cooperating with local businesses and local corporations, and local organisations, so that we really get our face out there. I think we do a wonderful job already when it comes to RAG. I was at the Courier's 70th anniversary the other day, and I opened up an old newspaper from 1960.
Time's up, Chris.
My story.
Sorry, Chris.
Brutal. Yeah, so I think actually making ourselves more part of the community is really important. You know, we have like spare facilities and rooms that we don't always use. I know there is pressure for people to use, for students to use free rooms, but they're not always in use and we don't always use them. So what we should do is our local artists, speakers, organisations to come in and actually use our facilities. And that would be a really direct way of actually making us joined in with the local community and actually bringing them here, bringing their culture, bringing their ideas, bringing their enthusiasm.
I think societies comes in here. I think it'd be really important to boost refreshers, make that bigger and better. I also think it's really important now, to work with charities and stuff around Jesmond, try and encourage societies to do more charity stuff, to be more involved in the community that they're living in.
Not just Jesmond, have quite a big focus on Jesmond.
And outside of Jesmond.
We have this huge focus on Jesmond. Newcastle is not just Jesmond.
Sorry, it's funny because I added that, yeah. But outside of Jesmond as well then, yeah.
Yeah, so like it's very important for Newcastle University to function in the city of Newcastle and give something back. So I feel like personally I'd love to encourage local culture, local day trips to, let's say, South Shields or Time Out, things like that, for students who come in not just from the UK but outside the UK, for them to go out and explore what Newcastle has to offer in general, and little things like that will definitely make a big difference for them to understand what Newcastle is about in general.
So I actually live in Whitley Bay. All of my family are from the northeast. I love the area. I think Newcastle is a great city. I think there's a lot to be said for the benefits of bringing people into stuff happening at the uni, also about getting students involved in events going on in the local area, local theatre, things like that. And I also think if we can create a really positive perception of students at this university by doing stuff like raising money for local charities and things of that nature.
Well, as someone from Durham, I know how bad it can get when a university body and the local population do not get on. It is really bad there. So I think as a union we do need to encourage our students to get engaged in their local communities, to understand the local environment, the local cultures, and actually just become a part of the city while they're living here. There's not a lot we can really do to make them do that, but to encourage it and try to make sure that's an aim of the union is definitely something to do.
I think a lot's already been said, but for me, the key is societies and the key is clubs, and we have such a wide sort of range of locations around the city. So Long Benton, we've got the marine thing in Whitley Bay, and we've got the climbing walls and Biker, I think. And I think the climbing society goes down to Biker, and I think you, with your Indian society, you put events on all around the place. And no, I think the key is that, and the key is to get the message out there about NUSU and what we're doing and the events that local people can also attend. And I think, well, I don't want to bore you all, so there you go.
Any more questions from the floor?
Hi, we've obviously talked a little bit about the community. I'm myself a community rep for a city centre in the West End. We do try and do quite a lot for the community and get ourselves out there, bringing up a good representation of Newcastle University to locals. But a lot of stuff what we find against, so we kind of go for safety, road safety, bin collection, all those kind of things about making your housing a good experience. We do get slowed down a lot by the council. I do think that's something that the current president has faced a bit of trouble with. What are you going to personally do to improve relationship engagement with external bodies and also get them to do their job?
Okay, we need one more question after this, so try and keep your responses quite short.
I think the answer is just cooperation. Talk to them. Personal touch is the way forward. And if you get your face out there, and if I was president, go and see the people and go and talk to them and really engage them and really make them think, well, we need to work with this body because there's 26,000 people here. They need to take notice.
Yeah, my answer is not hugely different. It's basically, when it comes to things like the council, just pester individual councils as much as possible until they listen, and bring the weight down that you have as president of the entire union. So.
Yeah, so I think that's an example of something that before you were elected you would have a limited understanding of how to really go about doing. So I think the key would be to work with people such as yourself who have experience in that area and then try to forge relationships, as everyone else has been saying, essentially. Just try to start on a positive foot with local councils.
Yeah, I think it works two ways. So I feel like as a president I would look at why the council is not being incorporated as we as Newcastle University, can we offer something to the council as well, us having such useful resources as well to get something back and to get their cooperation back as well. So it's all about working together and
Yeah, I really don't think I can add much to this, to be honest. Build them relationships, advocate for students, which would be my job. So that's what I could do.
Well, one thing to keep in mind is actually soon there'll be a mayor of Newcastle, and so one good thing you can do is play off like put the mayor and the council together to get your aims more easily, and also you can actually work with local organisations, so you help them and then they help you out, and you get extra pressure that way. And if we sort of work together with other groups like that, we'll have a more united front and be more powerful in getting our common aims together.
Yeah, I can't really help but reiterate what everyone else has said, especially Jamie with the mayor point. We're a students' union full of 26,000 people. With Northumbria, we're over 50,000 people. We need to work with people like yourselves who have actually been in the community, know what the struggles are, and we need to say that, listen, the students have a massive part in this city, and we can help. Let's work together.
Okay, we've got one last question over here.
Hi, yeah, I was just wondering how you would be increasing inclusivity in the union with societies, clubs, and also on the student council.
Increasing inclusivity has been quite a big thing of my role this year as race equality officer. Trying to get lots of different students involved, in my experience trying to get BAME students involved. It can be quite difficult, but what I think we need to do is make this space open for many different events, many different kinds of workshops and sessions and things like that. Just try and make it as accessible as possible. Not everyone comes here to drink. You know, although drinking is on some people's manifestos, this place can have much more of an impact than that.
So society is, I would say, actually the best thing about this union. Societies, clubs, volunteering, it's great. So what we need to do is we need to essentially start a grassroots campaign for more funding for this union, and then we can give a lot of that to societies because a lot of good work happens there, but also connecting societies, clubs, volunteering with outside organisations so you can link up and get more people involved. I think that would really help.
I think the recent Festival of Culture is a really good way to try and start that inclusivity. I think that is something that could be more of a year-round initiative, rather than just 2 weeks. I think that's something that we need to bring into university life more often.
Just what everyone else has said, as well as our job as presidents is not just limited to itself. We have so many resources around us, like other sabbatical offices and dozens of other societies which we can always tap into. We can see, guys, what's going on with you, would you like to help on here, there, things like that, and just organising and increasing communication and things like that. I feel like that will really help.
Yeah, so I feel like, as other people have said, I feel like societies are one of the most important parts about being at university, but I think there's such a wide selection available already that people are kind of quite easily able, with the societies fairs and such, to pick out societies that grab their interest and get involved with those societies if they would like to. That's made quite clear to them when they join the university. I would think just overall in terms of the student unions and things, I think we could do more to improve the image and just seem a little bit friendlier and more inviting for people to come and get involved who might not necessarily be keen straight away to.
Well, as you've heard, a key point of our manifesto is to bring cheaper drinks into the bar here. So if that brings more people in the door, I think that gets more people. If they're in the building, they see posters, they speak to other people in here, they get more involved in the Students' Union generally, hopefully, and then basically, yeah, just more involved in general.
So, as part of the AU exec with Maggie, she's very good AOSA, we counted this problem. We counted how do we get people to access sport, and the participation bursary is available for first years. But one of the key point of my mind, well, not key point, but it's a point. It's definitely there. It's about introducing that into second and third years, and potentially further fourth years, just so people can access that. Because it's all right saying you can go in one year, you can go in your first year, you can join all these societies in your first year. But then the second and third year, they're just left out to dry. And another key point is reducing the cost of sport at university. I've probably got no time.
Okay, thanks very much to our presidential candidates. Everyone remember to vote. It's open now, nusu.co.uk/vote. And good luck this week.
Katie, are you still creating? It might not get busy until about 5:30.
Okay. Yeah, time. Me and Eleanor will go along. It'll only take like 2 seconds.